So this build is a full poison damage build centered around Shred, which will be coupled with Blurred Beast and Stormclaw's aspect. So Shred and Blurred Beast got even stronger after the latest patch. The second important part of the build is Grizzly Rage coupled with Direwolf's aspect to help reduce the spirit cost of Shred by 75%. With this, we will be spamming Shred, dashing through packs of mobs that we infected with rabies. This is basically a poor man's version of the Stormclaw build that has Tempest Roar Helm equipped, but I think it still works just fine without it, and I wanted to create this build without using any uniques, because I honestly believe it isn't far off from the Tempest Roar version. But yeah, clearing nightmare dungeons or just clearing multiple mobs in general, this build just breezes through. It's extremely fast. The only downside I see for this build is it's not that tanky as other builds, and then when Grizzly Rage runs out, there is a downtime of 15 to 20 seconds. And guys, just like my last video, I made a graphic covering all the important aspects of what makes this build. I'll link down in the description and comments below. You can check it out there. So for the basic attack, we're going with Claw, and then we're picking up Wild Claw for a chance to attack twice, which means a chance to get double the spirit. And since we don't have Tempest Roar, we can't go with Storm Strike. When we go into Grizzly Rage form, Storm Strike will not be available, so we need to go with Claw here. And then of course Shred, we're maxing that out, and then it is important to take Primal Shred so that we can dash 3 times. And then we're taking all 3 points of Predatory Instinct. We need all the critical strike chance that we can get, and then I picked up all 3 points of the movement speed as well, since most of the time we're just gonna be in werewolf form. And then we're gonna pick up 3 points of Wild Impulses. And for defensive skills, we're picking up Blood Howl, and then we're picking up Preserving Blood Howl for the attack speed, since we don't need the spirit from innate Blood Howl, since in our Grizzly Rage form we're already generating a lot of spirit. And then just to have some sense of tankiness, we're taking Debilitating Roar, and I also took the aspect Dark Howl to make it a werewolf skill, so this will still be available when we go into Grizzly Rage form. And then we took Preserving Debilitating Roar for more healing. Then we're picking up all 3 points of Ancestral Fortitude and Vigilance, since we are spamming Blood Howl, and this will be activated most of the time. And for my version of the build, we are picking up all 5 points of Rabies with Natural Rabies. I think Natural Rabies is always the pickup here. It's so much better than Savage Rabies, since we need Rabies to spread out much faster. But yeah, the idea is to spread Rabies to a group of mobs, and then walk up to another group of mobs, and then they all get infected, and then you shred them all. And then of course we're picking up all 3 points of Toxic Claw, and then all 3 points of Envenom. And then of course we're picking up Grizzly Rage and its passives. And then we're also picking up Nature's Resolve, just for a little bit more tankiness when Grizzly Rage is not on. And then finally we pick up Lupin Ferocity for the key passives. Okay, now for the gear affixes. So for the helmet you want cooldown reduction, a primary stat, it can be dexterity, willpower, max life, total armor. But cooldown reduction is important for the helm since we want to reduce the cooldown of Grizzly Rage. And from the chest you want all defenses, affixes. Damage reduction from close, damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction from distance, damage reduction from poisoned. And in the substitutes I included Mad Wolf's Glee unique. If you have that, you can slot that in for more damage, since it gives 2 ranks to all werewolf skills, but then you do become a little bit squishy, so I would rather go with all the defenses. And for the gloves, the first thing you look for is rank to shreds, and then you want critical strike chance, critical strike damage, and attack speed. And for the pants, the same as chest, you want all damage reductions. And then for the boots, the first thing you look for is movement speed. Then you can either get willpower, dexterity, some dodge chance, and then total armor while in werewolf form. And then for the weapon, I usually look for core skill damage, critical strike damage with werewolf skill. But honestly, you can also slot willpower into this. It's not a big problem. It might be as good as the critical strike damage. And then of course you're looking for vulnerable damage. And then for the amulet, you want either ranks to Toxic Claws or Envenom. If you can somehow get both, might as well put them in. And then you want cooldown reduction again for Grizzly Rage, and then something like total armor while in werewolf form. Or you can get something like damage reduction from close. And in the rings, you're looking for critical strike chance, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage. And if you feel you're a bit squishy, you can go for max life. If not, you want full damage, then you can go either critical strike damage with werewolf, damage to poison, damage to close, and then the same affixes for the second ring. But yeah, for gear, you're mostly looking for defensive stats in pants and chest. And then for the glove, the main thing is ranks to shred. And then in the helmet, you really want cooldown reduction, and amulet, you want cooldown reduction as well, to lower the cooldown of Grizzly Rage. And for the spirit boons, we are picking up Wariness, less damage from elites and bosses. And then we're of course picking up Sight Talents for the critical strike chance. And then we're picking up Avian Wrath for the critical strike damage. And another big boon is Calamity. We need this to extend the duration of Grizzly Rage by 25%, since we also won't have Storm skills to reduce the cooldown of Grizzly Rage. And then we pick up Masochistic, healing for every critical strikes. So for the aspects, I'll just go over the important aspects. You're gonna want aspect of the blurred beast, and ideally you want to put it in your weapon. I put it in my two-handed axe, so you're looking at almost 200% poison damage activation instead of the 100% if you put it like on a ring. And the next really important aspect is Stormclaw's aspect. We have nothing to do with lightning again, but the 30-40% increased damage you're doing from your critical strike is just too big to ignore. And then ideally you want to put it in your amulet. And of course another big thing is Direwolf's aspect. We needed to turn Grizzly Rage into a werewolf skill, and which makes the spirit cost of Shred to 9 to 10 spirit. So you can essentially just start spamming Shred. And then some complementary aspects. You want to grab Accelerating aspect. Every time you crit you get attack speed. And then you want Night Howler's aspect. You want the extra critical strike chance from Bloodhowl. And then the rest of the defensive aspects you can check in my Maxroll build, which will be in the description. Okay, for the Paragon boards, the first thing you grab is Exploit for sure. The build doesn't have any other way to... This is the only way for you to inflict vulnerable, so definitely pick this up first as the first glyph. And then I went into Heightened Malice board, and then the next glyph I went for is Spirit Glyph for critical strike damage. And then I went into Thunderstruck board just to grab the glyph. Poisoning damages effects last for 33% longer. And then on the Inner Beast board I grabbed the glyph, Bane Glyph for more poison damage, and the percent chance to deal double the overtime damage whenever you apply any poison effect. And after that it's a bit of a choice. I see a lot of people grab Ancestral Guidance, but I don't know, I just felt like Ancestral Guidance was pretty hard to activate, especially in Grizzly Rage form. Because when you activate Grizzly Rage, Shred spirit cost becomes like around 9 spirits, so you need to use Shred almost 8 times before this gets activated. I guess you can time it before you use Grizzly Rage, but it just felt really awkward to use, so I didn't include it. Instead of grabbing Ancestral Guidance, I went with another glyph and damage reduction while fortified. So to cap it all off, I think the build's single target is okay. Something like Tornado Druid or Poison Creeper builds have much higher single target damage. But the AoE damage this build does is really good, with the combination between Blurred Beast and Stormclaw aspects. Top that off with Rabies, you are just melding pack of mobs. Survivability is probably the weakest point of the build. You only have Debilitating Roar every 15 seconds or so, but it is not bad by any means. But the build's biggest advantage is the speed. You have insane movement with Grizzly Rage active, and on top of that you are dashing all over the place to all the enemies. So all in all, I will give this build a B+ grading. Not too bad for a build not using any uniques. And I will have the Maxroll build and graphic links in the description and comments below, so you can check it out there. And if you guys do enjoy the builds, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want more of this content, because I will be pumping out a lot more in the future. And again, thank you guys for watching.